Hello, welcome. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Hi.
Hi, wonderful, wonderful. What's your name?
I'm Allison. Is this West Outer?
Yes, ma'am. This is West Outer. My name is Tolu Ibikunle. I'm the facilitator for West Outer.
Okay, I think I'm in the right place. Is this over by like 16 in Mount Holly?
Yes, yes. And just to be sure, I can show you a map so that if this isn't the correct room, you feel comfortable moving. So let me share. Can you see my screen?
I
Can you see
can.
the map here?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So just to confirm, so this is West Outer. And as I zoom in, this is 485 here.
Okay.
This is Wilkinson Boulevard, and
Okay.
this is the Catawba River. And
Where's
if I
six?
zoom out,
Where's 16 and Mount Holly?
16 and Mount, so here's Mount Holly.
Okay. And keep going north.
Here, let's
Do you see,
see.
do you see where, do you know where Riverbend Village is?
River, can you spell that for me so I can enter it
R
into
Riverbend Village, Riverbend.
Village? Nope, that's not here. Um,
Are you looking at neighborhoods or addresses?
an address could help.
Okay, 3910
3910
Mountain Cove.
Mountain Cove.
Yep.
Here we go. Yes, we are in West Outer.
Okay. I
So
just
you're
want
in
to
the right
confirm.
location.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, so I am going to, since it's just you and um, I was going to, the way this meeting is going to start is I was going to give a brief presentation, and then open the floor for you to ask me any questions or provide any feedback. If you
Okay.
prefer, though, if you feel more familiar with the plan already and you just prefer to jump right in with questions and comments, we can do that as well. I'm flexible.
Yeah, my concern is like 16 in Mount Holly. It's like, and
Okay?
then I know that we're getting like there's the bike trail on the other side of 485, but it is a traffic jam. And like the
Okay.
access to any of that, that's a huge concern.
Okay.
Um, there aren't the sidewalks and Riverbend Village, that's the one where like Harris Teeter and all the shopping is.
Okay.
And so having, large sidewalks that get to that, but also some way that we can get from like, let's say the grocery store to the bike path that's going to go all the way into Charlotte. Like it's a beautiful bike path, but there's no access for anyone on this side. And Mount Holly Hunter, I mean, it's a nightmare. Like you wouldn't ever get on a bike on that road because it is so narrow and there's farms along there and people are going by really fast. But then they have this continuous movement, so to speak, from 16 in Mount Holly, where people are going 55 mile. Like you wouldn't want to walk across it. Yeah, there's a walk zone, but it is not safe. Like you feel like you're trying to cross a freeway.
I see. Not walkable.
And so when you look at it, like they're going to say, oh, yeah, there's a pedestrian crosswalk. But if you watch the traffic and how fast they're going and just the congestion, I mean, it's like 5 lanes across right now. And you would have to walk 5 or 6 lanes. And then to try and get a bike across that or anything. And I know that that's one of those areas that is currently got like one of the triangles on it or something that like where they're trying to find solutions.
Hmm.
And so, anyways, my thought was that we might be able to have an access to the bike under the 485. There's a large water duck right by all of the townhomes and the grocery store. And I mean, it'd have to be enlarged, but anyways, it's just a thought. But right now, 16, it being walkable or bikeable, it's just, yeah, it's people are flying past there.
Okay.
I know that there's three other people. I don't know that they can hear you or not who look like they're on here now.
Yes, I see them. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining the West Outer group. My name is Tolu. Can you hear me okay? And can you see me?
I can hear you well.
Okay, wonderful. What about the others? Natalie,
Hey.
Stephanie?
Sorry, it's noisy in my background. Yes, I can see you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great.
I'm
If it's
probably not here until 6 o'clock though. I'm this early.
okay, that's fine. Um, okay, well, I'm glad that you all have joined. So the format is pretty informal. I do have a presentation, and since there's more of us, I will go ahead and start that presentation, and then I will take any questions or comments that you have. But this is really about giving you all an opportunity um, to share feedback on the plans and ask any questions that you may have. So let me share my screen. Stop sharing here. Okay. Can you all see my screen, the presentation? Great.
Yes.
Okay. And so then let me, okay. Well, we're here tonight, as I mentioned, to walk through the West Outer Community Area Plan and discuss how it may impact you and your community. Again, my name is Tolu, and I have the privilege to walk you through this process and explain how we got here. So, as you all know, growth is coming. People are moving here. So many people are moving here even by the day. So, in the next 20 years, um, we needed to identify how we wanted to grow and develop equitably, and to ensure that as we're growing, we can accommodate everyone, um, including making sure that we provide proper infrastructure improvements, access to safe and equitable mobility, housing, things of that nature. So the reason for developing a community area plans is Charlotte has been just continuously growing for decades, and we're projected to continue to grow. In response to that projected growth, our city adopted the Charlotte Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan in 2021, which defines, as I mentioned, our 20-year vision for growth and change in our city. The plan essentially calls for future growth to benefit as many people as possible. Now, while the comprehensive plan provides that broad vision for our community, there are other levels of guidance needed to make our vision come to life. There is a planning framework, which is shown here on the slide, that was adopted with the comprehensive plan, and it identifies the subsequent levels of guidance needed for each level, basically. So, for example, level 2 strategic plans are citywide documents that provide more details than the comprehensive plan on a more particular topic. So, for example, the Strategic Mobility Plan provides more guidance on how we realize Goal 5 from the comprehensive plan, creating safe and equitable mobility choices. Now, level 3 is where we are. That's the community area plans, which provide more guidance for the appropriate land uses, building form, infrastructure needed throughout the plan geography. So it's really looking at places more holistically. And it's important to note that levels 2 through 4 all build on the vision and goals outlined in the comprehensive plan at the top, basically. These plans are about, as I mentioned, creating complete communities. So it's not just about, okay, putting colors on a map, which I'll show you in a moment, that say residential should go here, commercial should go here, et cetera, et cetera. It's about making sure that no matter where those locations are, we have access to proper utilities, clean water and air, housing choices, good services, healthcare, jobs, transit, the bike network and pedestrian network, as you were just mentioning before, sidewalks, banking, streets, you name it. It's supposed to be included in how we look at how we're going to shape our communities moving forward. The process has been quite robust. The community area plans have been developed with a 5-phase process that occurred over 2 years. Staff has offered multiple engagement opportunities in each phase, and the outcomes of each phase have been shared along the way, and they inform the outcome of what's in the draft plans. Now, phase 1, setting the stage, identified each geography's greatest needs in terms of access to housing, jobs, daily goods and services, and reducing environmental impacts. The results of which are available in the 14 community reports, and I can provide a link to that in the chat after this. Phase 2, creating great places, reviewed the place type designations, which if you've lived in other places outside of Charlotte, typically they call place types land use categories, or a policy map, a future land use map. So they're pretty much the same, just called something different. Now, the reason for the policy map and why we reviewed it to make sure that future development addressed the community's needs for increased access and reduced impacts. So at that point, we held two public comment periods and on the revised map, and that map is also on the project website, so you can see that today. Now, phase 3, setting the stage, worked with interdepartmental partners within the city, but also county partners to identify planned and needed projects and supportive programs to support the community's vision for growth and development. Planned projects still available on the project website through the workshop web tool, so you can see all of that as well. And then phase 4, plan for action, package the outcomes of the first phases into a draft document for each of the 14 geographies. And we publicly released them, the program guide and the revised policy map, this year on April 3rd. Phase 5, which is where we are now, where we are reviewing the 14 draft plans, and we are hoping that they will be adopted. And I'll talk about some dates later on in the presentation. So phase 5 continues to offer multiple options for you all, stakeholders, residents, to review the drafts and provide feedback. So basically, that's why we're here tonight. And so at every level of the phases, there's always been community engagement. So throughout the process, we've reached over 400,000 people. And this includes online and social media reaches, over 16,000 in-person interactions, and excuse me, sorry about that. Let me go back. And over 1,700 comments received. And that number will increase as you all provide additional input. Now, I've talked about community area plans, but I'm going to get into a little bit more detail. So the plans were developed using a systematic process, meaning it was developed in the same way and will have the same components and format within each of the 14 plans for equity purposes. That's not to say that each of the 14 plans are not unique within themselves. Through community engagement and doing existing conditions assessment of the geography, we tailored any and all of the recommendations to that specific geography. It's just that the plan document itself is laid out the same to make it clear and easy to read. Now, these plans provide a common set of considerations for all decision makers to ensure we are consistently evaluating options in line with the city's vision. Over time, these considerations will help ensure growth is accommodated in a way that A, respects established neighborhoods, aligns with growth with our infrastructure capacity, and finally, creates vibrant mixed-use centers for all. This is a table of contents within the West Outer Community Area Plan. So if you look at other plans, you'll see it's the same table of contents and organization as I mentioned in the last slide. So I'm going to keep the table of contents on each slide for tracking purposes. Just for context, this is a city of the entire, this is a map of the entire city, and we are discussing West Outer, which is right here in the blue. Okay. Now, the next chapter outlines the geography's greatest needs. So this is where I was talking about the existing conditions of the area. So it outlines the greatest needs and prioritized goals. Needs are focused on increasing access to housing choices, job opportunities, daily goods and services, and reducing environmental impacts. The plans focused on these 4 needs because these are metrics identified in the comprehensive plan as paramount for ensuring future growth benefits as many people as possible. The 10 comprehensive plan goals were linked to these 4 metrics. So if a metric scored less than 5, so as you can see on this slide, if the metric scored less than 5, then the associated goals were identified as priorities for the geography. So with the caveat that all goals are important, but this prioritized list will help us prioritize the limited dollars and resources towards the greatest needs of that particular geography. So in this instance, this West Outer has scored for environmental justice 5. So the greatest needs are to increase access to employment opportunities, housing choices, and daily goods and services because the remaining metrics scored less than 5. Now, the next chapter, chapter 4, which is focusing on the recommended development pattern for the geography. And that's through the 2040 policy map. And that's the map that you see here on this slide. The colors in the map relate to the types and intensity of development that is appropriate in the area. To learn more about the colors, you can see the place type descriptions in the appendix. And I can even walk you through the website to ensure that you know how to access that. Now, it's important that the plans recommend a large portion of the geography to remain as is. So that's a good thing, right? So meaning if redevelopment occurs in these areas like neighborhood 1, which is your more single family, lower density residential, then new development should match the scale and intensity of development on the ground today. So the plan recommends 28% of the properties evolve into a different type of development than what exists today. So for example, to help meet the geography's goals for the future, some vacant undeveloped sites are recommended to develop into community activity centers. The community activity center's place type change will add new mixed-use development to the recommended areas, strategically providing access to new housing, jobs, goods, and services. And then new development is expected to provide all mobility, open space, and placemaking elements necessary to realize that particular area as a mixed-use center, basically. So this targeted amount of change will help accommodate our projected growth in a way that respects neighborhoods, pairs growth with infrastructure capacity, and then it's important to keep in mind that the map is expected to change over time. We do have a program guide, which I can, again, share that with you, where there's guidance on if it does need to change, how we do that. So to ensure that future requests are aligned with the growth strategy, basically. Advancing the goals is the next chapter, and creating complete communities is the next chapter, and it also talks about how we advance the goals. So the recommended changes help advance the geography's priority goals and addresses their greatest needs, as I mentioned before. So the place type change will add new development to the recommended areas, which advances goals 1 through 10. I'm sorry, goal 1, which is 10-minute neighborhoods, by encouraging a mixture of residential and non-residential uses within a centralized and interconnected development. Now, the place type change will also introduce new mixed use development to the recommended areas by advancing goal 2, which is not neighborhood diversity and inclusion. Now, this is important because it basically increases the number and types of residential uses where they didn't previously exist. The place type change also advances goal 3, housing access for all, by increasing access to housing choices, including, as I mentioned, the number and types, but in addition, adding additional uses to the additional residential units to the local market will also hopefully, I can't promise, the more units and the more availability will help contribute to lower prices, because as we know, housing prices are pretty high. And future community activity centers are basically recommended along existing or planned high performance transit lines or trails. So this advances goal 4, which is our transit and trail oriented development, by increasing the number of households and jobs within access to high performance transit areas, basically, or trails, either directly next to or within half a mile walk or 2-mile bike ride. And finally, this place type change would also add new mixed-use development in recommended areas to advance goal 8, which is diverse and resilient economic opportunity, basically by increasing access to job opportunities, including the number and types of jobs for different skill sets. This is my favorite part of the presentation, which is, and the plans itself, which is chapter 5, supporting the vision. Now, this part talks about the neighborhood toolkit. Even though it includes 5 sections, my favorite part is the neighborhood toolkit, because this is where you all get to basically use this as a reference, as a toolkit, and it's included in the appendix A specifically. And it's there for all of the 14 geographies within the plans. So the toolkit basically catalogs all the great programs that are currently available to residents to help address their needs. The intent is that it's a resource to empower neighborhoods who want to take more action. The toolkit basically outlines existing programs that neighborhoods can tap into to add amenities to common open space and create a neighborhood park, for example. The next section is mobility. Mobility was developed in coordination with CDOT, CATS, and by CDOT, I mean the City of Charlotte Department of Transportation, and the CRTPO and CATS. And now it restates that goal 5, safe and equitable mobility, is important across Charlotte, right? So it includes a clip of citywide streets, which is here. We have a streets map that was adopted with the strategic mobility plan, and it outlines the future cross sections for arterial streets in Charlotte. And smaller streets are also informed by the UDO, or the Unified Development Ordinance regulations. It summarizes the citywide strategic mobility plan and highlights the strategic investment areas within the geography. As a reminder, the strategic mobility plan is that level 2. Remember, in the beginning of the presentation, we were going over the triangle. So that's level 2 of the city's mobility policies. And the strategic investment areas, or SIAs, is a citywide investment strategy that maximizes the city's limited investment dollars in an efficient and impactful way. The strategic investment areas that I was mentioning, or SIAs. So here on the slide, this is West Outer, and this highlights some of the areas basically. And for West Outer, the closest one is the Northwest Strategic Investment Area and the West Boulevard Strategic Investment Area. And you might be wondering, honestly and straightforward, what is the Strategic Area Investments Initiative? What is it trying to do? It's basically filling safe mobility gaps by creating sidewalks and shared use paths, by installing pedestrian signals, crosswalks, street lighting, trees, traffic calming, ADA compliance. There are 22 strategic investment areas as shown on the map, which were selected through a data-driven approach by CDOT, or the City of Charlotte's Department of Transportation, and community informed through and community engagement through past planning processes like community area planning engagement events, also through the strategic mobility plan. And they also work with CATS to coordinate when it comes to transit, bus stops, bus stop amenities, things of that nature. Now, this is very important. There is an assessment, a mobility assessment, and it basically includes a new level of guidance. This assessment evaluates how well our future mixed-use places are meeting our aspirations, as outlined in the policy map and the place type descriptions. So these assessments should be used by everybody, frankly, residents, developers, city officials, to inform future developments and infrastructure improvements within these areas. If you haven't had a chance to look at these assessments, it is very telling. And I love how transparent it is because it's showing you, for example, in the legend, what each category means. So aligned with aspirations, somewhat aligned with aspirations, and not aligned with aspirations. So what these categories mean, it actually connects to a map in the plan. And so on the map, you'll be able to see what these categories mean.
Yeah, the area
Now,
that I was talking about was that M2.
yes, perfect, perfect. And I'll make sure I've captured that too in my notes when you were speaking. But to your point, you see that it's not really aligned, right? So we know we have work to do. Environmental justice is a major component of all of the plans, and it builds on the comprehensive plan's vision to reduce environmental impacts across Charlotte. This section provides more detailed analysis of those impacts within the plan geography. And so, as shown in the assessment dials here in this image, there's more detail, of course, in the plan. So I highly encourage you to read through that. And then it also, as part of the environmental justice assessment, it also introduces heat impacts as a new environmental metric where it didn't before. And this is major because we recognize that basically the less trees and that we have, for example, in certain areas, it has an impact on the heat index, which contributes, which is a public health concern, right? So we are trying to address that in the plans. So after hopefully plan adoption, because we really want, of course, these plans to be adopted, once you all have provided input, the plans will be implemented through that framework that I talked about at the beginning. Future development, public and private partnerships, so the private market, capital improvements, rezonings, and alignment rezoning. And additional planning will occur as needed. And the adopted plans will be updated more periodically, which is new and very important because we have made a commitment to update the plans more frequently to ensure that we are measuring the metrics that we put out to track our progress for implementation, and B, make adjustments as needed. So the next steps, we are hoping to go before Planning Committee for a referral to City Council. um, for a decision. And then in June, we don't have a specific date yet. It would be a city council decision. So I'm going to stop here and open the floor for any questions or comments.
Are they limiting the number of mixed use housing? Because like we're currently seeing like hundreds and hundreds of townhomes in the area, and they don't have the streets or the infrastructure or the schools to support anything additional.
They're not limiting it. It's on the policy map, it's targeted. So for example, let me show you. I'll stop sharing. Okay, can you all see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oop. Okay, so West Outer is here, basically. And you're asking about limiting the amount of, did you say housing or multifamily? Which one did you say?
Family, I mean, just so many townhomes going in the area. And I mean, it's like a parking lot to try and get out of our subdivision because 16 is so backed up and they're putting more there.
I see. So, based on the plan, I'm trying to pull up the, so based on the plan, and if you look in the actual document itself, it's on page 21. This will show you the anticipated change between the place types. And so they are not reducing or limiting the amount of multifamily being built. So for example, 20%, 28% of the planned area is recommended to evolve into a different place type. And so one of those place types, and I'll show you here, is neighborhood two, which is or N2, which is multifamily. And so there is plans for additional multifamily. Yes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's just we don't have the infrastructure to support it. I mean, like
Hmm.
they're putting in all these developments, but the mobility issues and just having too many people in an area before the infrastructure is there is really frustrating as a resident.
Okay. Well, I am noting that, and this meeting is also being recorded. So I'm ensuring that all of your comments will be captured so that I can relay that to the team. But on the map, and just so when you go back to look at it, can you all see the map still?
Yes.
Okay, so this orange here, as I zoom in, so this is 485, this is West Boulevard, and this is Dixie River Road, just for context. And this is the Catawba River. This area is classified as neighborhood two, which is at multifamily development. Additionally, between Old Dowd Road and Emma Smith Road here, there is additional neighborhood two, but I don't, but this, it's important to note that there may already be, and based on this map, there's probably existing multifamily. So the policy map also reflects what may reflect what's existing, the existing entitlements. So if there's
Can you
already
go,
townhomes or multifamily, that's also why it might be N2. Yes, ma'am.
can you go further north?
Sure. Towards Mount Holly Road,
Yeah, that
because
16.
this is the area that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So this, as I zoom in, I can already see that there are existing multifamily here. So that's why it's classified as N2 because it's already multifamily. Um, I can't tell from this map if it doesn't look like there's existing development. It looks like this
They're adding
may,
more. Yeah.
this is vacant or undeveloped. So this is slated for neighborhood two. Now, the other thing I mentioned earlier in the presentation, another tool in our toolbox is the Unified Development Ordinance. So, which is for specifically zoning. So that's at play as well. Now, since we have a hard stop at 6 o'clock, I wanted to give Natalie, Stephanie, and Valerie a chance to ask any questions or comments as well.
I'm just, being nosy, I guess. I am the east side, so I'm waiting on my presentation. I just wanted to listen in on this presentation. And because I was so late, I'm not going to ask questions because I don't understand any of it right now.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad
I'll
that
wait to
you'll
ask
be
my
staying.
questions in the east side. Yes, I will be staying.
Great,
Thank you,
great,
though.
wonderful. Thank you. Natalie, Stephanie, do you have anything? Okay. If not, ma'am, did you have any other additional comments or questions?
Will you just go a little bit further north? I'm curious,
Sure.
like what other additional orange twos following Mount Holly to like 16?
Okay.
And the green areas, what's the green areas right along there?
All this green, that's open space.
And will it stay that way?
Um, to be honest, I'm not sure, but I'll have to verify that. So will the green stay that way? Because in some instances, yes, there may be a conservation easement on it. Um, but I don't want to say yes and then development pops up and then you're upset. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to make sure we didn't go out of the area out of West Outer. So yeah, we basically stop at Mount Holly Road to, yeah, so like right at Oakdale Road, Mount Holly and Oakdale, basically.
Okay.
And then here, oop, we got like less than a minute. I'm trying to go back up to make sure where we were. Yeah, this is too far. So we're not even up this far. Here's Mount Holly. Yeah, so we're not even up that far. Okay, so that's good news. But it's 6 o'clock, so we have a hard stop at this point. Thank you so much for joining, and feel free to place yourself in a different meeting room if you like. If you wanted to stay for the next presentation, which is East, Middle, and Outer, you're welcome to. Thank you.
Thank you, Jula.
Thank you.
Thank you.